Music a little bit. Hello. Hello. Imagine your emotions as if they were individual tools that were all packed away in the same toolbox. What does your emotional toolbox look like? What I've noticed when I look into my emotional toolbox is I have my favorite hammer. Which feels representative of anger. Anger can be a dependable tool. It's a lot like your favorite hammer. We don't have to throw away our favorite hammer, but we don't need to bring it out in situations where other tools would be just as effective. A hammer can be clumsy. A hammer can do more harm than good. It can be very destructive. What you'll notice is that the tools in your emotional tool chest will have a wide array of uses. Some will require a very delicate touch, finesse. Others tend to be a bit more direct, a bit more blunt. It's okay to love all of your tools. But it's important to recognize which ones we've been over-reliant on. Because if all you ever use is a hammer, then every problem starts to look like a nail. cool thing about your emotional tool chest is that it's never too late to learn how to use a new tool. It's never too late to add a new tool to your collection. How are you feeling today? Been job searching for months and have only gotten one interview. Your mom thinks you're not getting a job on purpose. Have her try applying for a job. See how well that goes. You either have to be blissfully unaware, or let's just go with that. You kind of have to be blissfully unaware to think that the job market is good right now. Let's get this show on the road. Let's get down to business, shall we? I've never been able to live up to her standards, but I just try to live by mine. Have you told her that? Sometimes what might seem very obvious to us, sometimes something that might seem just so very obvious to us, something that we've known since we were children, sometimes that sort of stuff just doesn't click with your parent, even though they're a grown-ass adult. They'll find themselves alone and 75 years old, just like, you know, maybe I was too hard on them. But who knows? Wish me luck on my night Moscow adventure. Good night, my friend. Good luck. always wanted to visit. Seems like a cool city. All right, I'm here. I've got my hat on. Got my boonie cap on. We're going into the boonies. I wish therapy sessions covered for those who can't afford it were mandatory for new parents. Having been someone who has worked with, let me rewind a little bit. If you've been around for a while, you probably heard me talk about some of the work experience I've had. One of my first big boy jobs in the psychology field was I was an in-home parent counselor, and I would have to teach parents who had been reported to Child Protective Services. I would have to go in there and teach them how to fix whatever was wrong so that their kids could stay at home. Having done that, it would shock you just how little some parents know. I have seen just countless examples of children raising children. And so I kind of view the parent-child relationship a little bit differently than your average person might, just because of the experiences I've had. Working in that type of field, it was stressful. You get some success stories, and those are really cool. Get some success stories. Not all of these people were downright abusive. A lot of these people were just uneducated, underemployed, or unemployed, and they were just struggling to make it by. And since they weren't able to get their kids all the clothes they need, the school hotlined them because they were showing up to school with the same clothes on multiple times a week. That kind of stuff. A lot of the cases we would get were just kind of that kind of stuff, And then we had some that were way more intense, way more extreme. Parents who, the child was born and tested positive for drugs at birth, that kind of stuff. So it's the kind of job that you have to go into knowing that you're not going to be able to help everybody. That you're not going to have a 100% success rate. And that in some cases, for the good of the child, they do need that intervention. Some of these people were a downright risk to their child. But that was the minority of people that we worked with. Most people weren't that aggressive or that level of abusive. But yeah, in working in that field, you really get to see how underprepared some people are to have kids. And I think that there should be a lot more, guidance and education on how to raise children, because it really does take collective effort to raise a child. It takes a village to raise a child. And we're making people raise children without the village, and it's taxing. I've known people who have had to work 2-3 jobs just to have enough to take care of their kids. Just having to do it all on their own. and then feeling a sense of despair because they're having to do it all on their own. You gotta be borderline alien to be a trauma surgeon, I feel. That's one of those instances where it's like being able to detach yourself from the situation that you're in emotionally isn't always a bad thing. Some people use that for good. You know, being emotionally detached in some situations is necessary. You know, you're defusing a bomb, you're operating on somebody in a trauma scenario. It's like you gotta detach yourself. So it's tough. Do you think it's ironic that the people who complain the most about the declining birth rate are also the people who have made it more and more difficult to actually raise a child? The same people who want to cut SNAP benefits, the same people who want to, cut school lunch programs. Like they're worried that we're not having enough children. The real reason why they're worried that we're not having enough children is because they're worried they're not going to get enough of a expendable working class. That's the real sick reality of the situation. But who's going to take care of me when I'm old? Who's going to wipe my ass? How are we gonna ride high on the hog if we don't have a exploitable working class? We need people who are able to do the... I think a lot of these people just haven't thought about why people wouldn't want to have children, for whatever reason that might be. Raising a child, especially in today's world, super stressful. I have friends who have kids of varying ages, and the stuff that they tell me about, like, school curriculums these days, like, they're not really teaching them much. They're basically just teaching them whatever is on the standardized test so that they can secure their funding. It's crazy. He also doesn't want kids. He almost got married at 19 and hasn't been in a relationship since that breakup. He should come talk to me about it. Help him snap out of it. They're gonna replace everybody's jobs, they need to give a universal basic income. They could probably do that shit today, actually. Start doing it now, actually. That's probably a good idea. Maybe we should spend some of our money that we just print freely on the people that live here instead of spending all that money on blowing up people in other countries. We're sending it to other countries so that they can blow people up. I don't know about you, but I don't want any of my taxes going towards blowing other people up. I can think of a lot of things I'd rather have those tax dollars go towards. I think we just have our priorities off. Our priorities are off. When you hear the phrase anti-homeless architecture, what comes to mind? When you hear the phrase anti-homeless architecture, what comes to mind? Do you think of uncomfortable benches? Do you think of little spikes and ridges? Things that make it so that a person can't sleep somewhere? That's what you think. That's where our brain goes, right? When we think of anti-homeless architecture. Isn't it crazy that when I say anti-homeless architecture, you don't go towards, oh, apartment buildings? Housing. Isn't housing a much better, much more efficient way of, generating or creating anti-homeless architecture by building homes for people? That's the only type of anti-homeless architecture I want to see. Housing. I love it here. If anybody asks, I'm just gonna go on the record. I love it here. I love everything about America. I would never think about ever saying anything bad about America ever. Thank you. This has been my statement. Put that on the record. Is it normal to just not be happy no matter how good my life is? Is it normal? No. But are we living in normal times? Hell no. Hell no. Because here's the thing. No matter how good your life is, if you have human empathy, if you have basic human decency, you have a certain level of awareness, you look out into the world that you live in, and you see all of that inequality, all of that injustice, it's gonna make it really hard for you to enjoy your life, no matter how good it is. No matter how good your life is, if you have basic human decency, it's gonna make it harder to enjoy what you've got going on for you. It's like going to LA and walking around in a really affluent part of town, seeing all of these multi-million-dollar homes, and yet there are people just sleeping on the streets, and the streets are just filthy. It's like that level of inequality. And you see that in cities across the country. You see that all over the place. Let's keep on with the question, because I'm on one today, so pardon me. Is it normal to just not be happy no matter how good my life is? It's completely understandable. I'm not going to say it's normal or it's not normal, because I don't believe in normal. I understand it's good. I don't have to work, since all my needs are covered, either by disability pay or my rich parents. I don't have many friends, but the ones I do have are amazing. I'm not in a relationship, but I've come to the realization that being in one, at least for me, would probably just cause more drama and stress than it's worth. I have hobbies and stuff that keep me busy without having to worry if I miss a day, or doing it because it's all self-paced and doesn't ultimately need to be done. My life seems perfect on paper, so why doesn't it feel that way? Well, like, you've checked off all the boxes, right? Like, you've taken an internal mental inventory of yourself. You've checked all the boxes. You got all the ingredients going on. And yet we still find that we are dissatisfied. And so, if we've got everything going for us, and yet we still remain dissatisfied, we need to start to look outside of ourselves. Having a plate that's full doesn't feel that good if you can look at your neighbor's plate and you see that they don't have a lot. You know, when we look out into the world, we see a lot of suffering. And a lot of it feels cruel and unnecessary. A lot of it might even feel sometimes like it's by design. Recognizing that, recognizing that the world I digress. I digress. We can acknowledge that suffering in the world exists. And I feel like so long as we're able to acknowledge it, do what we can to minimize human suffering in the world, or maybe even take an active role in working to end it, even if it's just by sharing thoughts and ideas, like we're doing right here, right now. You know, sitting down and talking about the collective sum of human suffering isn't something that people often take the time to do. And yet, here we are doing that. So even in doing that, we're doing something. Having all of your needs met is just the beginning. That's just the foundation that you build off of. And so where do we go from there? By extending our awareness, both inwards and outwards. Diving deeper into your own awareness, your own consciousness. Who made me? What is this all about? What does it mean to be me? What type of mark do I want to leave? What type of person do I want to be? What are my values? What are my virtues? Just looking inwards to find a deeper level of understanding and appreciation for who you are. I had a therapist once suggest I can't read today. Somebody just take me around back of the shed, okay? Somebody just it's my time, all right? I had a therapist once suggest I shoot for profound okayness rather than happiness. I kind of like that idea. You gotta learn to be okay with being okay. Okay for most of your life is kind of like your default. You're mostly in that realm of okay, I'm all right. You know, hey, how's it going? I'm okay. How have things been? I've been all right. As long as nothing too crazy, as long as nothing too disruptive or too exciting, it's just been okay. Well, it's been all right. Sure, it's been fine. That's where we spend most of our time. It's where you spend most of your time, so it's useful to learn to enjoy it. You know, if being okay is where I'm going to spend most of my time in life, maybe I can raise the floor for what okay is for me. Because just like you have an emotional spectrum for all of your emotions, you also have a range of what okay is to you. You have a low floor and a high ceiling, and this is the range of okayness. We can raise that floor. You can be more okay with being okay. Or you can even learn in time to be happy about feeling okay, because you're aware that there are alternatives. If you want to feel more alive, more human, more interconnected, if you want to feel like you're doing something, you know, try to find a sense of solidarity. Try to find other people who have a similar sense of purpose and group up with those people, doing whatever it is you guys do together. Whether it be a food pantry, a neighborhood watch, a group where you just get your friends together and you talk political philosophy, you know, some sort of community aid. There's a whole range, you know. You could join a political organization. You could unionize your workplace. Solidarity is really important. And for a lot of people, it can be a struggle to find because there's been a lot of conditioning. There's been a lot of brainwashing, I guess, about the significance and the importance of the individual. It's very big in Western philosophy. The importance of the rugged individual. You know, that one great typhoon of a person. And there's a certain pressure that you have to be that person, or else you're not anybody. But no force on earth is weaker than the feeble strength of one. It is the union that makes us strong. feel optimistic because propaganda has become less effective, I've noticed. Have any of you noticed this as well? Don't get me wrong, there are still people who are very bought in to certain ideas. There are still people there who are happily licking the boot. But I can't help but feel like people are waking up. That makes me feel hopeful. All of my needs are met, but I still feel like I'm not doing enough. There's always more to be done. There's always more that you could do. That's true. Beaver? Here. Oh wow, look at that. That's a real honk. Big boy. Thud. Something just resonated with me. Profound okayness. Profound oak anus. What did your therapist mean by this? I agree. If you want to make it through life, you should find a profound oak anus. Makes sense to me. Right, Beaver? Wow. What's that? It's a cat. Sleepy? Ever seen an emptier head? Beaver, I need to learn from you. I need you to be my guru. What do I do when dumb people piss me off? He's never met a dumb person. You've never met a dumb person? Wow, Beaver. Thank you. That's very insightful. Beaver, do you want to take the next question? You want to take this one, Beaver? Alright, I'll read it for you since you don't know how to read. I was a loner in high school, and I still can't get over how bad it felt for those years. In my country, high school is 3 years, from 16 to 19 years old. I missed out on common experiences in my late teens. Now at 24, I still feel like a loner and I don't have a job and I'm single. How can I let go and try to make life something I enjoy? All you gotta do with this life that you've got is live it. We gotta focus on what we've got in front of us. We gotta let go of that past. In the grand scheme of your life, high school is such a small part of it. It's a small little portion of the whole grand scale of our life. You've still got plenty of time, plenty of opportunity to really find who you are as a person. It's important to recognize that you are someone who is deserving of human connection, of human love. You deserve those things. You deserve to have relationships. You deserve to have friendships. And I know it sounds simple, but when we spend a long time alone, we can sometimes start to feel like we don't deserve to have other people around us. But you do. And so that's the shift we're trying to make. We're trying to find that new way of looking at things. So get out there and try. Get out there and live that life. Well, you've still got life to live. Don't beat yourself up for who you were in high school, okay? I don't care who. I'm not just talking to the questioner on this one. Don't beat yourself up for who you were in high school or middle school or whatever. Don't do that to yourself. All right? You are at an awkward, formative part of your life. For some of us, that means we're not going to really feel like we fit in. Or we're not going to feel that comfortable with ourselves. We don't feel like our true, genuine self. That's normal. That's to be expected. You're going to spend your whole life figuring out who you are. And you're not who you were in high school. That's just a small little part of who you are. I'm glad I'm not a teenager anymore. Those days sucked. It comes with its ups and downs, just like every other phase of life. You know, when you're a teenager, it's a lot easier to just get excited about stuff. You know, or when you discover something new, it's like, oh my god, that's so cool, and then you're like obsessed. It's nice to feel that feeling, you know, but that feeling is still inside you. It's just all caked over. I would say that a real goal for life would be to maintain that childlike sense of wonder while having a responsible adult brain. I think that's what we're really striving for. So don't let whimsy die. Yeah, being a teenager sucks. All of your emotions are cranked up. You've got all these hormones in your body's going through all these physical changes. It's awful. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. So, how do we let go and try to make your life something that we enjoy? One step at a time. One little thing after another. And so what's that first little thing? Even if it's just going on a walk and thinking about it. Where do I want to go from here? Where do I want to take my life? What's my next step? Gonna be a parent soon. Congratulations. Congratulations. How exciting and also terrifying. I'm mostly excited for it, but I also told myself long ago that if I were to have kids of my own, I would break the cycle of manipulation and neglect that ran rampant in my family. I have a good partner and think we will make a great team. The only issue is I never properly addressed my childhood trauma with a counselor or therapist. You don't always have to. It doesn't always have to be something that you do with a therapist, believe it or not. Going to therapy is like going and fighting somebody who can help you out of a cave. You're trapped in a cave? Okay, well now we're in the cave together. And we're gonna kind of feel our way around and, you know, we're gonna try to find the way out of this dark place. You can do that on your own. Actually, you can do, well, not just on your own. You do it with the help of having a supportive family, having people in your life that care about you, you know, being able to... We don't always have to go and unpack every trauma we have with a counselor. It helps, but it's not always necessary. I only have my own experience and the feelings attached to go off of. How do I identify a cycle if I don't even fully understand what happened to me? Thoughts? Thanks. Some of the things that you're trying to understand about yourself, you might not reach that level of understanding until you get to a different stage of your life. What I mean by that is healing happens in layers. And sometimes we heal things from our past by changing how we act in the future. And so, once you are a parent, once the child is here, and you're interacting with the kid, and you start to feel those feelings well up inside you, and you start to think back at your own childhood. Having an understanding of our cycles and understanding and identifying everything that happened to us, it can be helpful, but it's not always necessary. Just show up every day, try your best, and you're gonna do fine. You're gonna be a great parent. Some days you're gonna feel like a great parent. Some days you're gonna feel like an awful parent. That's parenting. So just be willing to learn, be willing to grow. View your child not just as somebody that you're there to teach, but also someone that you're there to learn from. You're breaking the cycle because you're aware that the cycle exists. You're going to do something about it. Make it a little bit easier. Anyway, where am I going with all this? Healing happens in layers. Just focus on the layer that you're in. When your child is born, things will feel different. When your child is a few years old, things will feel different. You'll reach deeper levels of understanding and awareness with time. And so as long as you have a good idea of where you're trying to go, you have a clear understanding of the direction that you want to take things, the type of parent you want to be, the type of childhood you want your child to have, just focus on that next step. Just focus on what's right in front of you. You're gonna do great. You're gonna do great. Just think back through history, the types of relationships that parents had with their children. For a long time of human history, parents just didn't care what their children thought or how their children felt. We've lived through time periods where people would have an excess of children because they lived with the understanding that not all of these children are going to live to see adulthood. And so our perception and our types of relationships that we have with our children has shifted across the span of time. And not that long ago, we had parents who were very emotionally detached from their children. They didn't care what their children thought. It just wasn't normal to do. And this is something that is relatively new. You know? Talk to somebody, like I've talked to people who, You know, they're in their 50s, their 60s. It was a completely different story with how their parents treated them. They were to be seen but not heard, you know? Just the level of, like, it was just different, you know? But the idea of a parent, like, sitting down with their child and talking to them about how they feel and taking those things into consideration, or viewing your child as somebody that you can learn from, you know? It just, we didn't even look at it as a possibility. And so you're helping to break a cycle that has existed not just in your family line, but that has existed across much of humanity. A disconnection. I feel like for a time, parents had this expectation of their children for them to have unwavering loyalty and no emotional expression between the two. Like, you're having a bad day, like, figure it out. Don't bother me with it. I'm busy working. You know, I've got adult things to worry about. I've talked to a lot of, like, boomers and Gen Xers about the types of stuff their parents would do when they were kids. It's like, we've come a long way. We've come a long way, that's for sure. Hey. Oh, what am I doing with this? He's my co-host today. We're trying to help the world one question at a time. Oh, he's very comfortable. There's a cat right back. You want a cat? There's a cat right over there. Take that little one up there. Here you go. My mom just learned from 23andMe results that her father had an affair when she was still in the womb. Her half-sister was born in 56 while she was born in 55. She's been asking the last living siblings to put together a timeline to make sense of it. It was wild what people were getting up to. You know, we look back at the past and we think, you know, they were all so wholesome, but they were wild in their own way. You know, boomers lived in a world where not only could you raise a family on a single income, you could have enough extra income to start a second family. A secret family that you keep from your first family. That's some boomer stuff. Yeah, I don't think people really do that much anymore. It's too expensive. We used to be a real country. We used to be a real country. You used to be able to provide for an entire family on one income and have enough left over to start a secret second family. It's a shame. It's a shame. How far we've fallen. Your dad's dad had a second family. See? It's more common than you think, apparently. Questioner, I want to wish you congratulations. I think you're gonna do great. Now, you're thinking about stuff that a lot of parents for a lot of history never took the time and energy to think about. You know, not a lot of people have sat down and thought about, am I going to be a good parent? You know, am I going to be able to break the cycle? Am I going to... But you're doing it. That's good. I feel like through a lot of human history, that's just been people's main drive in having children, is wanting to do better than their parents did. Wanted to share a W. Guess who got married? I'm a man now. You got married? Nice. Congratulations. It's a W. You know, as a wife guy, this stream is wife guy friendly. We love a wife guy in this community. We don't like deadbeat husbands, though. We've seen a few of those. But that's my favorite type of man. A man that loves his wife. I will make sure to make her as happy, satisfied, and relaxed as I can. She's about to get the best omelets daily. My mental health has never been better. I wish all of my fellow married men and women happiness and peace to their marriages, and for all the single folks to find their soulmate in this life at the right time. Mom, I did it. Congratulations. I will offer some words of wisdom. Nothing that you said was wrong. Everything you said was good, okay? I just want to emphasize that to begin. But when it comes to being a good partner, it's not just about being happy with them. It's not just about being satisfied and relaxed with them. If they're scared, if they're sad, be there with them. You know, be there with them and share in those emotions, even if they're not good emotions. In my opinion, that's what partnership is really all about. Just being willing to be there. Rain or shine, sickness or health, you know? And like, you know, just for a simple example, like if your partner comes up to you and there's something that they're worried about, don't just brush it away. Don't just tell them that they're being silly. Don't just tell them you got nothing to worry about. Just actually talk to them about it. Congratulations, friend. I hope to see my invite to the wedding in the mail. Is all of chat invited? Does chat get to come? Do they get should we send the gift registry? Best approach on encouraging someone to get a job without making them feel too bad. Well, alright. My younger sibling doesn't seem to be kicking it into gear. No college, no apprenticeship, no job. I'm afraid he doesn't realize that our mom won't be around forever to look after him, or he does and just doesn't care. So we're trying to instill on this young adult the importance of being able to sustain yourself in this world. What does he do with his free time? Is he just sitting around all day? Just playing video games? Does he at least do stuff? Does he read books? Does he go out in nature? Does he talk to people? I can understand the sentiment behind their feelings. You know, put yourself in the position of a young person in today's world. There's a lot of young people feeling a sense of despair. You know, they feel like, maybe I don't want to work every day for the rest of my life until I, I feel like young people are getting a really bad deal as far as society is concerned. As far as there is a social contract that exists within any society. And the social contract that we're expecting young people to sign on to, they're not getting a good deal. Like, hey, do you want to never be able to own a home? Do you want to barely afford healthcare and food and to pay your bills? Do you want to do all of that while working all of the time? Maybe even multiple jobs? Can you blame a person for not feeling enthusiastic to participate in that system? It's tough. And so I think what's important is to validate a person's feelings. Because I get it. I can see why a young person would feel a sense of gloom and despair about the state of the world. And so we've got to talk to them and figure out, what is it that you're interested in? What is it that you're passionate about? What sort of stuff do you like to do? We want to get out there and to do stuff, even if that's, having a job, working, going to school, just learning and growing. It's important. We don't want to be stagnant. Whenever we're feeling that sense of despair, if we remain stagnant, we just continue to sink into the swamp. And that's no good. I think they should just try to find something that they find tolerable. You don't have to find the job that you want to do forever. Just find something that you're okay with doing. Something that's, because something's better than nothing, and it gives you an opportunity to learn and to grow. Helps you to combat the stagnation. So how do we encourage somebody in this way? It kind of depends on the person. Different strategies work differently for different people. Some people respond well to, giving them a little bit of encouragement, showing them that you believe in them and that they think that you believe that they can do it. For some people that is a really big deal, feeling like other people believe in them that they can do these things instead of just griping at them and asking them, hey, why aren't you doing these things? You know, why are you so lazy? Why aren't you doing what you need to do? It just depends. Like, that works with some people. Some people, they need you to be a bit more direct with them. Just be like, hey, these bills aren't going to pay themselves. You know, why are you okay with mom working hard? Why aren't you willing to help out? That kind of stuff. You know? Like, why are you as a grown man relying on your mother to work for you? That's... Oh, I don't know. It kind of depends. Like, you know your sibling better than I do. You know them better than I do. But I would lead with trying to use the carrot before we switch to the stick. And I don't mean a literal stick, I mean a metaphorical stick, because I can't advocate for the use of sticks to remedy behavior. What I mean by carrot and stick is, you know, just try to be encouraging and positive and uplifting. You know, hey, I'm sure there's something out there for you. You want me to help you look? You want me to help you get some applications in? You know, what sort of stuff are you interested in? You know, like, try to be enticing and encouraging. That's the carrot. The stick would be, do you think any woman is going to want to date you if you're just going to rely on your mother? Like, sometimes you just got to be real with people. Like, do you think that this is attractive? Do you think this is going to get you a lot of friends? Do you think this is going to... I don't know. Some people respond well to being a bit more stern and direct with them. You also may be looking for a job but not telling the person until they land said job. I know a lot of young adults feel the need to do it alone. But they don't have to, though, is the thing. That's just people being pressured to feel like you can only measure yourself by what you do as an individual, you know. But we can get so much more done when we work together. We've got nothing to prove to anybody, you know. Atticus, do you want to go out? All right, let me let this dog out real quick. Let me get this dog real quick. Let him out of the room. All right, buddy. All right. Are you ready for the next question, Beaver? Are you ready for the next one, big guy? You ready? You ready for the next question? He's ready. A lot of young folks think they do because of... Yep, that's America for you. We love teaching people that the only thing that matters is your own individual success. That's capitalist brainwashing for you. Anyway, it's rough out there finding work. So anybody who's out there trying to find a job, I feel for you. Can you suggest some resources or tips for having conversations with young children about policing? Ooh. Ooh. Okay. Rojetta, thank you for the Prime sub. I'm also interested in discussing how teachers are teaching this topic in daycare. Recently, they had a cop, a firefighter, and an EMT safety week, and their perspectives on police officers differ significantly from mine. I don't want my daughter to hate the police, but we're black and need to approach the situation differently. I usually talk to her as if she's a young adult, assuming she'll eventually grasp everything. However, I'm concerned about evoking fear in her during these conversations. Okay. What you're describing is something that's very real, and it's a conversation that you will need to have with your child at some point. But I don't know if we need to have that conversation right now. And feel free to disagree with me on this. You know, I'm not speaking on this as if I'm an expert on your lived experience. But I feel like at a certain age, you know, your child is still very young. So I would still speak to them about this type of thing as if they were very young. You know, when a child is very young, I feel like it's okay for them to recognize, like, who are the adults that you can trust in an emergency situation. You know, if something happens, if something, you know, and you are in danger, you know, who are the people that you can look to if your parents aren't there? I feel like that's important to instill in a young kid. The later conversation, and I feel like this is an important conversation to have. It's a conversation that, you know, I've heard many black parents talking about having to have this conversation with their children of how do you act when the police are around? And I feel like for most parents, that's a conversation that you have a little bit later. You know, when you start to get a little bit older, you know, 10 and up, I'd say. And it'll be easier to have that conversation when they're a little bit older. Because really young kids don't do nuance very well. You know, and so if you're talking to a really young kid, you kind of want to keep things simple so that they can understand the concept without getting confused. You know, it's kind of hard to teach a little kid that, you know, you should, you know, if there's something dangerous happening, you can, you know, feel safe around a police officer versus understanding that sometimes you need to be very on guard when the police are around. It's something that a young child won't really be able to understand until they're a little bit older. Some kids can understand it a little earlier, but I would say at minimum 8, 9. I would say maybe like anywhere from like the 8 to 12 range is when you're going to want to find that time to have that conversation with them of, you know, there's a realistic danger, you know, black kids are shot disproportionately to other kids by the police, which is such a fucked up thing to even acknowledge or say, because but it's real, and that's the world we live in, and it's scary and awful. And so I think while that is a super important conversation to have with your kid, I think it's okay to wait a little while before you have that conversation, and I would trust your judgment as a parent to know when that is. You know, it'll probably be around the time where your child would be more likely to be like out riding their bike or out playing with friends, being a little bit older, and you don't want, you want them to be aware of the actual risks that, but in the meantime, they're still pretty young. I would just keep it straightforward. It makes me sad that we live in a world where people have to even have that conversation with their kids, Like, hey, if a police officer ever comes up to you, this is how you need to act because there's a chance they might shoot you. That's just... It's fucked up. It's fucked up. I don't recall ever talking about the police with parents or school faculty as a child. Doesn't happen everywhere. In some places, it's more likely to happen. Some schools have police officers that work at the school. It's like the school resource officer. There's like a police presence at the school. And they're there every day. Love the firefighters. Everybody loves the firefighters. There's never been a song called Fuck the Fire Department, alright? I watched Cops with my parents at an age I really shouldn't have been. Growing up in a cop family, we watched Cops, and I didn't realize until I was older. I was like, yeah, I probably watched more Cops than a person should watch as a child. Because the thing about Cops is, like, they're all about that cop life. All of their friends are cops. Their favorite shows and movies are about cops. Growing up in a drug addict family, we watched Cops too. Oh yeah, but you were learning different stuff. You're like, okay, so... They're like taking notes. They're like, okay, so if the cops are after you, don't hide under the... don't hide under this thing because they're gonna flip it over and look me. So, if... taking notes, I'm learning. Don't hide under the kiddie pool. Anyway, just one more thing regarding this question. I would just let your child know, like, try to find a firefighter first. If you're in a situation and there's a firefighter, an EMT, and a cop, go for the firefighter. The EMT's probably gonna be more busy doing other stuff if they're there. You don't want to... but the firefighter, that's probably the one. Aim for the go for the firefighter. You have your choice. Option 1, option 2, option 3. Go for the firefighter. Yeah, the EMT is gonna be busy. They're gonna be working. They're gonna be... If the EMTs are on the scene... Most stations welcome visits during the day as long as your city isn't literally on fire. It's true. If you walk by and the doors are up and the fire engine's right there, you can be like, hey, can I take a look at the fire engine? And they'll normally be like, okay. Like wondering why you as a grown-ass man are wanting to see the fire truck, but I just think fire trucks are cool, okay? Get over it. I crushed my nail biting habit nearly 6 years ago, and it's suddenly come back. Last week I had a few canker sores on my tongue because of it. Ouch. My nails look ghastly. I've even nibbled down skin on the tips of my fingers. I'm exhausted. I have no new stressors. Just online courses in preparation for a fall semester at uni. What's the brain domain interpretation for why this is happening? Is there one? Let's think about this honestly. Would we be returning to the nail-biting habit if we weren't dealing with some type of stress? Are we always aware of our stressors? Not necessarily. Sometimes we have stress, but we don't even calculate it into our stress because, oh, that's just the way things are. That's just how it is. It's been that way for a long time, so it couldn't be that's stressing me out. It must be something new and unique. As far as the why this is happening, I feel like anybody who's paying attention is stressed. Chat, would you agree or disagree? If you're paying attention, isn't that stressful? Just looking at what's going on in the world? Like, I had my first panic attack today. How do you feel now that it's done? The thing about a panic attack is that it really sucks when you're going through it. It can feel like you're dying. It can feel like you have a heart attack. It can feel like you can't breathe. But thanks to the power of endorphins, you tend to feel pretty chill afterwards. Better, but it was terrifying. Yeah, they're scary. The main takeaway here is that it can't kill you. Even if you feel like you're gonna die, it can't kill you. A lot of what causes that feeling during a panic attack is your body is giving you adrenaline, but it doesn't fit the context of when a body should be giving you adrenaline. It's like you're it's like you're sitting in a car and you accidentally hit the nitrous button, but you're at the drive-thru. It's like, wrong time, wrong place. Didn't need all that oomph. Didn't need all that horsepower. Panic attacks are scary, but I am scarier. That's... As somebody who's had a few panic attacks, because anybody can have a panic attack. It's a human event. It happens to a lot of people. That was what kind of got me through it, recognizing that this is a physiological response. My body is creating this response due to anxiety or stress or whatever. It's going to pass. I just need to focus on breathing. I'll breathe my way through it. And I'll remind myself that I'm the real threat here, not the anxiety. I don't need to be afraid of my panic attack. My panic attack needs to be afraid of me. I've had a panic attack once, never thought it'd happen to me. It can happen to anybody. That's the thing. And it can happen for any number of reasons. You could just be overworked and overtired, and you could just be laying on the couch minding your own business, and then suddenly it's like, by the way, don't forget, keep breathing. If you stop breathing, you will die, so keep breathing. And then you're just laying there gasping for air, like, what the fuck, where did this come from? Oh my god. I don't want to die. I must continue to breathe. And you're gasping for air. What I found to be helpful is, if you have a panic attack, first off, identify it right away, so that you know what you're in for. Feels like I'm having a panic attack, so I'm just gonna find some place where I can just ride this out. I'll find a nice seat, or even better, I'll lay down. And I'll just ride it out. I'll just keep breathing until my body reacclimates. Haven't self-harmed for one day. Gotta start somewhere. Take it one day at a time. I'm sorry, what are you talking about, Bad Back Tony? What are you... Can you elaborate? Where are you going with this? Please, go on. Getting distracted from the question in the box. So I'm going to try to return to this a little bit because we we're talking about panic attacks. We're talking about anxiety and stress, and panic attacks are related, so anyway. We're trying to stop nibbling on our fingers. I can offer you some actionable tips. I'm going to offer you some actionable tips. Good imitation of, unfortunately, Jon Stewart. And I'm still wondering what the fuck you're talking about. You okay, brother? You doing alright? You just walked in here, came out of the gate swinging, and I'm just confused is all. Anyway, actionable tips. First off, recognize that this is something that you were already able to manage once. You've already been able to do it once. You've already got 6 years that you didn't nail bite. So if you can do it then, you can do it again. If you did it then, you can do it now. You know, sometimes in life we find ourselves facing problems that we thought we have defeated, but the good news is that if you defeated it once, you can defeat it again. So think back to what it was that helped you to overcome it the last time. What sort of stuff helped you to overcome nail biting the last time you did it? What sort of stuff helped last time? You know, consult an expert. You. You are the expert on you. You know, you were there the last time. You were the one that got you through it the last time. So think back to those things. Outside of that, Doctor, are you coming in? You want to come sit with me, Doctor? Here he comes. The doctor is in. There he is. Doctor? That's Dr. Dog. This is gonna sound silly, but it can work, alright? So just hear me out. The next time you feel the urge to bite your fingers, sit on your hands. Just sit on them. Watch that feeling as it blooms inside you. You're gonna have this feeling of wanting to bite on your fingers. And we're gonna watch that feeling as that urge grows. That urge will grow and you're gonna feel like, I wanna do it. I wanna bite on my fingers. And we're gonna continue to watch that urge until eventually it starts to recede. This only takes a few minutes. Typically, urges don't persist indefinitely. They normally fade within a few minutes. It sounds silly, but it can actually be effective. You know, just sit there, tuck your hands under your legs. Does this work with sweets cravings? It can work with a lot of different cravings. It's based off of a technique called urge surfing. And it's something that we used to teach addicts how to, deal with their urges. And it's a similar practice because instead of smoking cigarettes, the behavior that you're trying to curb is chewing on your fingers. And so you do similar stuff when it comes to changing how we respond to an urge. That's ultimately what you're doing. You're changing how you respond to an urge. I had to move my keyboard because Beaver has completely taken over my desk. This fat orange cat. Big guy. There are other options. You could put something gross on your fingers that makes them taste disgusting so that you are less likely to bite them. That can also help. It doesn't have to be anything like just something bitter, something spicy, Clear nail polish. I've heard that's pretty effective. I've heard, that's something that they'll commonly do for people who nail bite is to put clear nail polish on it because it makes it taste disgusting. It might surprise you. A little goes a long way. But at the end of the day, you've done it once before, and that's good. It's kind of similar to somebody who used to smoke and they quit smoking and they stopped smoking for years and then they pick up smoking again. It happens. It's not all that unusual. But if you did it once, you can do it again. One more thing. In those moments when you catch yourself, it's really important to be mindful of how you treat yourself at those times. So, for example, let's say you catch yourself nibbling on your finger, and you say, oh, I need to not do that. I'm not supposed to be doing that. I'm trying to stop doing that. Be mindful of how you respond in that moment. If you take that moment and you're just very harsh with yourself, very punitive with yourself, and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I can't even stop chewing on my fingers. Oh, there's nothing that really even bothers me. Why am I doing this? Why can't I stop doing this? That's not really going to help you. That's just going to pack more anxiety in. Instead, recognize, hey, I caught myself doing it, and now I can redirect. Because that's how it's actually going to play out. You're going to catch yourself in the act, feeling like you want to do it, or actually doing it. Show yourself some grace and compassion as you pivot from that point. Oh shit, what's this guy? Hold on, I need to see what this guy's saying. I just wonder how long it's going to take the military-industrial complex to realize that large ships like aircraft carriers and aircraft that take off from them are obsolete now. I agree, actually. The army that we have today is built for fighting yesterday's war. I agree with you on that one. I don't have a lot of people that want to talk to me about this type of stuff, though, but I'll talk about it. Otherwise, my neighbors just have to hear me rambling about it. But no, you're definitely right. We sent Advec Tony, thank you for the Prime sub. Thank you. Now, we sent this new aircraft carrier to the Middle East, the USS, I think it's the Eisenhower. It's got like 2 nuclear reactors in it. This thing's insane. And then it had to basically immediately turn around and come home because it got fucked up. Just like, aircraft carriers are obsolete, buddy. It's all about drones now. It's all about drones. And this is the problem of the military operating with like private contractors, is that they're gonna end up paying way more for stuff that's just not relevant anymore. I want to see Mark Levin crying. I would love to see Mark Levin crying. Nothing would bring my heart more joy than to see Mark Levin just, he has a mental breakdown every time people say that they want to not kill each other. He's just so revved up for war. I love to bully him on Twitter, actually. He's one of the guys I like to bully on Twitter. What is happening? This is called male bonding. This is what men forming friendships looks like in 2026. We talk about how Mark Levin sucks. Oh, it's important to support anti-war veterans. Because who else would be more qualified to be anti-war than someone who has been in war? Trump knew that boots on the ground. Yeah. I don't think anybody except for the most insane people in our government would want to see boots on the ground overseas. That is so tremendously unpopular. It is because if you send 10,000 troops in, that's 10,000 casualties. There is no way. There's a reason why boots on the ground in Iran isn't really a thing. The country's like 90% mountains. It's just... Geography was Iran's ace in the hole. It has been for thousands of years. Well, maybe, yeah, it's you know, if you look through ancient history too, it's like the geography has always worked to their advantage. There's a reason why their civilization has persisted for so long. Marco Rubio isn't white enough for most Republicans. Well, these are the same Republicans that would have an aneurysm at the idea of Jesus not being the same shade of white that they are, despite being a Middle Eastern man. Anyway, I can't wait until those people no longer have power in the government. I can't wait until all of the old racists are gone. That will be such a wonderful day. Asshole Huckabee. See, Mike Huckabee. He's up there with Ted Cruz. He's up there with like Randy Fine. Like these are all just people that are just despicable. You get people like Huckabee who are these like neoconservative warhawks. Hassan had a nickname for Randy Fine. Oh, Candy Swine? Candy Swine? Oh my god, quick, somebody write that down. It's a great drag queen name. Candy Swine, and you do a parody of Randy Fine. Yeah, Candy Swine. If you don't know about Randy Fine, you're lucky, but he is one of the most despicable people in Congress today. He's had some really just disgusting things to say about killing Palestinians, like finish the job, kill them all, like literally like that kind of shit. Interesting ad on gambling. Oh my god, they're showing a gambling ad here. Great. You know, I tuned into a little bit of the white trash cage fight outside of the White House, which that's what it felt like, honestly. It felt like This is like some tweaker shit. Like, let's do some fucking backyard wrestling. Like, that's kind of what it felt like to me. Um, all of the advertisers were like crypto, gambling, Turning Point USA, Monster Energy. Yeah, a lot of Americans they don't question why we have all of these military bases all over the place. Like, you know, you mentioned Jon Stewart earlier, and I agree that Jon Stewart is a bit of a, you know, he's a bit of a loser. Because whenever Iran had retaliatory attacks after they got attacked, they're like, Jon Stewart went on the air and he's like, ooh, Iran's response to getting attacked was to attack everybody. It's like they were attacking the US military bases in all of the countries around them. Hezbollah blew up tanks with toys, they didn't blow up buildings. Yeah, the retaliation has always been, like, the retaliatory violence has always been heavily skewed. Remember when dignity had value? Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy how much things have changed from then till now. It's like now it's like you can eat children. You can prey on children and you can do just fine in our government today. Does it make you feel crazy? Because it makes me feel crazy. Maybe you're not the one that's crazy. Maybe it's the world we live in that's crazy. Me personally, I think it's been helpful to recognize for my own mental health that I'm having a normal response to the world that we live in. I think it's also important that more Americans wake up to the fact that what they're doing to Gaza, we're gonna try to do that here. We're gonna do that to Cuba. We're gonna do that to, you know, parts of the country here if they don't go along with towing the line, if they don't bend the knee. And I hope that people can grasp that idea. That the reason why they're doing it over there is so that they can see if they can do it over here. It's not left versus right, it's up versus down. They don't view you as human, they view you as cattle. How long do you think it would take us to end homelessness in this country? How long do you think it would take? There are approximately 700,000 people who are sleeping outside. How long do you think it would take to build housing for 700,000 people? You've seen how fast they can throw up apartment buildings. You've probably seen them throw up apartment buildings in a couple months in your city, right? You've probably seen them throw up apartment buildings like crazy. I think realistically, we could end it in less than 2 years. For a fraction of the price that we spend paying for weapons, for a fraction of what we send in military aid. 700,000, that's not just California, that's across the country. I've been to LA, and it's gross. The streets in LA are some of the nastiest of any big city I've been to. It's just so gross. They don't get enough rain. It's nasty. The dirt just cakes on. It's really gross. You know what I would do if I was mayor of LA? What kind of things do you see on the street? It feels kind of like Mad Maxy sometimes. You'll see these like elaborate structures that people will build. They'll like build a little encampment like right in the middle of an intersection. They'll plug into the power poles and have like TVs and stuff. I've seen little tents with solar panels. I think that if you live on the street, the city that you live in should be willing to compensate you with a wage and housing if you are willing to work for the city to help clean up the streets. I feel like we can have this problem solve itself. Create incentives for housing and employment by working in a custodial fashion to help clean up the city. You solve two problems at once. But that's socialism. What about mentally ill, unhoused people? At the time that I worked in homeless outreach, one of the approaches that we took was the housing first perspective. One of the models that we used was the housing first model. And what that is you recognize that a lot of what goes into a person's mental health is the fact that they have unstable housing, the fact that they feel unsafe because they don't know where they're going to stay that night, or they don't know if somebody's going to, come into their tent and hurt them or take all of their stuff. And so the housing first model it's all about focusing on getting somebody housed first before you make them jump through a bunch of hoops to address their mental health problems. Because in a lot of these services, they have requirements for the people who are in the program, like, okay, we can find housing for you, but you need to be enrolled in mental health services, you have to make all of these appointments, you have to visit with these doctors, you have to do all of this stuff, and it's really hard to keep up with all of that when you don't have a stable place to live. And so the idea of the housing first model is get them stable first and then focus on treatment. Now, of course, there are going to be outliers. There are going to be people who are like very substantially ill, and that's a different set of circumstances. But as far as percentage-wise of people who are unhoused, that's not the majority. A majority of people who are unhoused are actually working, they're living in their car, they're bouncing around from place to place. You know, they're staying with a friend a couple days here, staying with a friend a couple days there, maybe sleeping outside a couple nights. We have this idea of what a unhoused person or a homeless person looks like. And that idea that we've been conditioned is somebody who's dangerous, somebody who's mentally ill, somebody that uses drugs. But that's not the majority. That does exist. It's very stressful to live on the street. I can't fault people who live on the street for wanting to use drugs. I can't. I can't imagine a more stressful scenario. Like, sure. Like, can you blame a person for wanting to escape? Anyway. Right? Yeah, like I've met plenty of people who have a home and are doing drugs, but you know. Alright, let's check out this question. What's your opinion on using a sick day for a mental health day? Oh, I did it all the time. Whenever I worked a job that had sick days, I do it all the time. I would do it at least once a month. Yeah, once a month. Especially working in the mental health field, it's like sometimes you need that day off. You're just not feeling it that day. So, my opinion on using a sick day for a mental health day, go for it. However, I think that you should have that included and it shouldn't count against your sick days. I feel like having a mental health day should be its own separate thing and that they should give it to everybody. I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting your employees to feel mentally healthy, right? That's not a bad thing. For the first time ever since I started working full time, I took today a sick day as a mental health day. Feeling a lot of burnout lately, lack of motivation, and irritability. You earned that day off. You earned that day off, so. You know, burnout's real. Burnout is something that you have to continuously work against. That's the thing. And I know that that sucks, because we would like burnout to just be something that we could be done and over with. We would like to always feel prepared, always feel enthusiastic, always feel motivated. But it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. And so I think it's important to recognize that your level of motivation and enthusiasm is going to fluctuate. And so on those days when you feel motivated and optimistic, embrace it. On the days where you don't feel that way, try your best anyway. See how far you can go. And on those days when you really just are sick of it, take the day off. Threw my back out and have an excuse to not do shit. There's something about that that's just... it's a thing that you know. I saw this short. It was this little sketch on YouTube. And there were these people and they were like acting like construction workers. And then one of them throws their back out and all of the coworkers come along and they're just like, "You did it. You're free." And this guy's like writhing in pain. And he's just like, "I did it. I threw my back out." And they're like, "Enjoy your weeks off, buddy. You're gonna have a great vacation." And I think it's, that's just a mindset that you see in a lot of men, is just, I need to work myself until something breaks. And then I can rest. I have to go until I throw my fucking back out. You know what I mean? If you grew up in America, you've probably met some dudes that were like that, Might have been your dad, your grandpa, your uncle. You probably met somebody who's like, they stay busy until they are so physically incapacitated that they are incapable of doing anything. The psychology of the American man. And the thing is that people get it because they've thrown their back out too, and they know how much it incapacitates you, and they're like, you can finally take some time off without feeling like you have to explain yourself. That having an injury gives you a pass to actually take a break. And I just think that's, the healthiest thing to do, brother. Isn't the whole point to take a break before you get injured so that you don't get injured? I just know too many dudes who have trashed their bodies doing manual labor for years. You'll see these dudes running around, they're 65 years old, they look like they're 85 years old. They've just been living that lifestyle of wake up, smoke a cigarette, go to work, come home, drink beer until I fall asleep, and then wake up and do it all over again. Or the little old ladies with permanently hunched backs. Yeah, there was recently a feel-good story. I don't know how much traction it got because a lot of people were just like, what the fuck is wrong with this situation? It was this 85-year-old woman who was working at AMC movie theaters, and she was just all hunched over, trying to drag this heavy trash bag around. And it was like, oh yeah, people came together and they started a GoFundMe, and they were able to pay for this lady's retirement, so she's finally able to retire at the age of 85. Isn't that such a feel-good story? And I was like, what? Let me find this story real quick. Tennessee AMC worker, 85, receives $146,000 from strangers for retirement after a viral video. Do we have the video? Look at that hunch! I clicked on it and it got smaller. Look at that hunch. But yeah, somebody filmed her, and then the video went viral, and they raised a bunch of money so that she could retire. And this is meant to be a feel-good story. But what this really reminds me of is the orphan crushing machine. This reminded me of the orphan crushing machine. Every heartwarming human interest story in America is like, he raised $20,000 to keep 200 orphans from being crushed in the orphan crushing machine, and then never asks why an orphan crushing machine exists, or why you'd need to pay to prevent it from being used. The New York Post. Yeah, the New York Post is just such slop. It's so bad. The New York Post is not even fit to line the cage of your pet rat. I would use the Wall Street Journal instead. Yeah, this is what I was referring to when I said the orphan crushing machine. It's this meme that's been passed around. Because this is what it feels like. It's like, why is an 85-year-old doing back-breaking labor in order to survive? Why is isn't an 85-year-old doing back-breaking labor a sign of a failed society? The fact that people have to come together to crowdsource and finance this person's retirement? Isn't that kind of fucked up? But yeah, that's the country we live in. But don't worry, we can have awesome gladiatorial combat right outside the Emperor's palace. We just can't stop winning, can we? Yeah, that's another story that you'll hear is like some high school robotics team came together to build somebody a wheelchair or like to help somebody get a prosthetic leg or a prosthetic arm or something. And it's like, oh yeah, the insurance wouldn't cover it. But don't worry. Somebody else stepped up. It's like, we are so brainwashed if we think that that's a good story. Like, hey, do you want to see an example of how society failed and how individuals had to step up? But yeah, I feel like a lot more people are waking up to how things really are. It's becoming more and more difficult to distract yourself from it, which is really what they wanted people to do. They wanted people to just keep their heads down, keep chewing your cud, just be a good little cattle. While they all cram the lifeboats. It's like we're on the Titanic and they are packing the lifeboats with they're taking all the silverware, they're taking all of the anything that isn't nailed down, they're trying to gut the place. Don't forget, Jeffrey Epstein said that Trump would probably start war with Iran if he ever felt backed into a corner, so I feel like a lot of people are pretty aware of that's why we're doing what we're doing. It's because our president is implicated. Can you imagine the amount of blackmail a person would have to have on you to go to war with another country? It's insane. That's why the techno-feudalists are trying to control everything. Yeah, they're trying it. These techno-fascists. Just don't forget, chat, only you can prevent data centers. One of the stupidest arguments I see is people who are like, imagine complaining about a data center but then using the internet. It's like, we don't need... The current internet as it exists already exists. We don't need to build all of these new data centers. They're only doing that so they can power their more advanced surveillance systems. It takes a fuckload of computing power to have that level of predictive action. They're trying to do some fucking Minority Report shit. They're trying to identify you based on how you walk. They're trying to figure out what you want to do before you even know what you want to do. I feel like not enough people understood what Snowden leaked. Yeah, it was basically like, oh, the government's spying on us? Who cares? We already knew the government was spying on us. But at the time, it wasn't these, like, AI-powered surveillance systems. If you were gonna surveil somebody, there had to be human effort involved. But now they can use a predictive model to, surveil people to an entirely new degree. Oh yeah, the Panama Papers. Remember when they murdered the journalist that revealed that story? My older sister used to say shit like she was afraid of being tracked and put on a list 20 years ago. I thought she was paranoid, but now it's all coming true. She was just ahead of the curve. She was just too early. But I feel like nowadays it's like, if you're not on at least some list somewhere, are you even living? Are you even living? I remember when the news story went out of the news cycle, or when the story went out of the news cycle and no one ever got arrested. Which is why we're not going to let the Epstein Files story die, because they want it to die. They want us to stop talking about it. Because they haven't arrested anybody over that either. They're out here eating kids. I was like 12 and I told her I wasn't afraid because I had nothing to hide. You know, you really capture something there. They always say that everybody acts like they're 12 years old. It feels like everybody's just acting like they're a 12-year-old. And it makes sense because that's a 12-year-old's logic. It's like, yeah, I don't mind if they watch everything I do because I'm not doing anything wrong. I don't have anything to hide. Until they change what's wrong. That's the problem with surveillance states. You might feel like you're a good little bean and that you follow all the rules and you got nothing to worry about because you're not a problem. Until you are a problem. Until somebody decides that people that look like you or think like you or believe what you believe shouldn't be allowed to do what they do. And now you being you is against the rules. That's the problem with surveillance states. Yeah, if you're an anti-fascist, they consider you a terrorist. And when you're labeled a terrorist, they're able to detain you indefinitely without a trial. Thanks to the Patriot Act. Why do you think that they wanted to make Luigi Mangione a terrorist? Because they wanted to lock him away without a trial forever. Even though he didn't do anything wrong. He was with me that day. I was hanging out with him. He was helping a kitten out of a tree. I was holding the ladder. Or they fabricate evidence. That's going to be a big deal in the future, especially with all this AI bullshit. They can already generate a video that's incredibly difficult to tell if it's real or not. The stuff that they can create is scary. And boomers eat it up too. Like, we knew that boomers were gonna fall for the AI slop, but honestly, I'm kind of impressed with just how easily they fall for the AI slop. It's like, there's just no resistance against it. They just yep, that's real. They're using it in like attack ads and shit. Like, oh, you can't vote for that Democrat. You can't vote for that Democrat. I saw in an attack ad that they had a threesome with Ilhan Omar and AOC. It's like, that's just AI slop. But you fall for it because your brain is a prune. I'm on the bad parent list because my son is trans. Yeah, allowing your son to be who they are makes you a bad parent, apparently. They keep bringing up trans people as if it's a gigantic deal. It's like, trans people are such a slim minority of people. We're talking about like 0.1% of the population. And they're just being so vilified. It's ridiculous. Like, no, trans people aren't your problem. Would you feel safer leaving your child with A, a trans person, B, a drag queen, or C, a Republican senator? I would feel safer leaving a child with a trans person or a drag queen than I would a Republican congressperson. Like a priest. Feeling super overwhelmed. 20 weeks pregnant, have a 16-month-old. Get your hands full. And your belly full. Finishing an addition on the house, and the decisions are a lot. Wanting to get the house decluttered and organized, but feel like I can't ask my husband for help on things because he gets overwhelmed easily. Alright. Would you agree that living in a house that is cluttered makes it easier to get overwhelmed? Could the clutter be a part of the reason why he feels overwhelmed? Or it might not be the whole reason, but it's definitely not helping. You know, when we have a lot of clutter in our living area, it's a reflection of having a lot of clutter in our mind. And so I unironically think that by helping you declutter, your husband would feel less overwhelmed. It's also important for you to feel like you can turn to him to help you when you need help. Because that's your husband. That's the father of your children. That's your partner. You guys are on the same team. Neither of you wants it to be cluttered, so both of you can do what you're able to help to declutter it. Now, you should feel comfortable to ask help from your partner, just as your partner should be willing to help when they're able. No matter how easily overwhelmed. Here's my tip. I have a tip for you, okay? We need to... You're dealing with a husband, so we're gonna have to think like a man for a minute. Here's the thing. If you were to come to him with a task, if you were to come to him and say, I need you to help me declutter, it's too cluttered around here, where's his mind gonna go? What's gonna be his response if you were to just keep it vague? You know, like, hey, do you mind helping me declutter? Do you mind helping me clean up? His mind's going to go to, this is a lot to do. I can't do all of this right now. I'm busy. I've got other stuff going on. I don't have... If you're going to ask him for help, try to keep it as specific as possible. Ask him to declutter a specific thing. Or ask him to help you do a specific thing. And I know that this seems unnecessary because it would be nice if we could just ask people for help and they jump in and do the thing that we need them to do without having to ask. But sometimes people need a little bit more direction than that. You know, we can all be guilty of that. Having direction helps. Like, hey, do you mind helping me clear off the table? Do you mind helping me go through this laundry real quick? Hey, I'm gonna go through my closet and I'm gonna get rid of some clothes. You should go through yours too, so that we can go drop off our donations at the same time. My honeydew requests are concrete, small, and time limited. That's the way to do it if you're trying to get... You know, I'm not trying to be stereotypical here, but I am that way too. It's something that you commonly see in men. If you're going to ask them to do something, be specific with it, have so that they have a clear understanding. You know, if you just ask them like, "Will you help me clean?" They're not going to know where to start. Do I get a broom? Do I get a mop? Do I pick up the trash? What do I do first? There's too much to do. I'm overwhelmed. There's too much stuff to do, and so I don't do anything at all. You keep it focused. Hey, do you mind clearing off your desk? So just try to narrow it down to what specifically do you want him to help you with at this point in time. Preferably something that, it's not going to take, it's not going to take forever. It's not like, because if you're asking somebody for help, they might feel like this is too much of a time investment. You're going to, hopefully I'm not being confusing. I'm kind of rambling, but if you were to come to a person and your house is messy and you're just like, "Hey, help me clean the house," they're not going to know where to start. They're going to think, this is going to take too long. There's too much to clean. This is going to take hours and hours and hours, and I don't have hours and hours and hours to clean. You're not asking them, "Hey, help me clean everything until absolutely everything is clean. Help me do a 100% top to bottom clean right now." That's not what you're asking. But that's kind of what is being interpreted. And so I would just keep it narrow and specific. Like, "Hey, do you mind tidying up the living room for me?" Even better, do something together. Like, "Hey, will you help me do this?" And then you can do it together. Or, "Hey, I'm going to do this. Do you mind doing that?" "I'm going to switch out the laundry. Do you mind taking the trash out?" It's the art of the deal, folks. It's the art of the deal. And then most importantly, after he does the thing, you have to give him a pat on the head and tell him he's a good boy. Because that's what he's really after. That's what he's really after. Deep down, that's what every man actually wants, is to just get a pat on the head and say, "You're a good boy. You did a good job. Thank you." It works in reverse too. Oh, that is true. That's a good point. If you have a friend that's sick, instead of asking them, "Is there anything I can do to help?" How many times have you asked somebody, "Is there anything I can do to help?" Or you've said something like, "If there's anything I can do to help, let me know." And then what's the normal response to that? The normal response to that is, "Thank you, I'll let you know," or "Thank you. Just, all right, thank you." They might need your help. And so when offering help, just try to offer help that's specific. Your friend's sick, like, "Hey, you want me to bring you some soup?" And that's just one example. This applies to any situation in which a person needs help. Offer a specific type of help. "Yeah, do you want me to take the dogs out? Do you want me to, do you need that kind of stuff." Just asking for help can be tricky. Receiving help can also be tricky. Like if people are offering you help, it can be hard to say, "Yes, I do need help. Yes, that would be nice. Yes, thank you. That would be appreciated." It's difficult. So when it comes to asking other people for help or offering help to other people, I find it's helpful to just keep it as simple as possible. Good luck with all that stuff, you know. Doing like adding an addition or doing renovations on your house, it makes it very hard to keep things neat and tidy. I get it. So, my advice would be if you're going through renovations in your house, just try to keep it as clean as you can. Don't expect to keep it perfectly clean. You know, you'll have time to tidy and to make sure that everything is nice once the construction is finished, once the dust has settled. Once the dust is settled, then you can sweep it up. It covered my house in plaster. Yeah, that's what it does. It's messy. That's why we like to hang up plastic sheets. We were doing construction down in the basement and we had everything sealed off and we had plastic hanging up and dust still found its way upstairs. Not nearly as much as it could have been because we made a lot of dust. I had to resurface the concrete and I had a giant grinder that was kicking up a bunch of dust. It's actually like I had garbage bags just full of dust. And it was heavy too. Like, I've never seen so much dust in my life. Yes.
I started to, but I can't. I don't know how to get it.
You just have to plug the battery in.
The other one.
Oh, I don't know how to start the other one. I never started it before. I think Craig's here. Alright, chat. I'm gonna run. Got a little bit of a late start, did a little bit of a late stream today. Hope y'all had a good time. We're just keeping it cool. Trying our best to stay sane in a world that makes us want to feel otherwise. So, have a good night, everybody. I'll be back again later. I'm going to be going over to Grandma's tomorrow to finish up the bathroom. It's just about done. Got the walls finished. Got it all painted and stuff. We just have to install the toilet and put the cabinets in and stuff, so that'll be fun. All right, everybody. Have a great night. Try to have some fun. You know, do something nice for yourself. See y'all in the next one. Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye. Oh, by the way, I saw Backrooms yesterday. It was alright. It was pretty good.